Welcome to Tech Lunch Office. I have Lionel here with me today. You want to introduce yourself to our audience?
Absolutely, and thanks for having me here at the office. Hi everyone, my name is Lionel Grossbay, and I'm an AWS Specialist, basically meaning that I assist with migrations, cost optimization, and overall security in AWS. And I'm really excited to talk about the art of the possible and what we can actually do with Amazon Web Services. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure. And honestly, we already had so much success with you working together, helping our clients. So the first question is pretty straightforward. What is the biggest success that you've seen with our clients so far?
Absolutely. When I think about the success of our clients, I think about one client when I first actually came on with AWS. This client was actually a biopharmaceutical organization, and they were looking to optimize their cost. They had tried everything internally as far as trying to lower the cost in their AWS environment, but they just weren't successful. So they came to us, and we actually brought in one of our providers to assist them with their cost optimization. And not only did we assist them to find over 20% in cost savings, but we also assisted them in making sure that they don't have to do as much hands to keyboard work when it comes to optimization, because the tool that we brought in actually automates all remediation as it comes down to cost optimization. So basically, the tool did everything that the customer would do if the customer was able to go into their environment and save costs by going hands to keyboard. But we eliminated that for the customer.
That's amazing. 20% is a big change.
Absolutely. And the customer was actually doing about $120,000 a month in AWS spend at the time.
Oh, wow.
So very significant savings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, any kind of savings, even if it's 5%, that's big, but 20% is huge for the businesses, especially from this industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I can say that the biggest success that I've seen with my clients would have to be one of our clients that we worked with that actually came in because they were noticing a lot of anomalies in their environment, but they weren't quite sure where those issues were coming from. So what we did to assist them is we did what's called a tagging exercise. And what tagging does is it allows the customer to have visibility not only into the resources in their environment, but also tag those resources so that they can actually compartmentalize them to different departments, to different individuals, and actually be able to track per user, per group, how much is being used in AWS, and actually bring that back in a statistical way for future planning in their AWS environment.
Oh, that's amazing. And what about success optimizing someone's environment? To give me an example of a client, maybe how much money we were able to save or something like that.
So actually the customer that we were doing the tagging project for, we found through the tagging project that there were a lot of things in their environment that just weren't right size. There were things that were not being utilized. There were things that were being overutilized. So we actually did the tool we were just speaking about, the well-architected framework review, and we found so many anomalies in their environment that actually allowed us to show them how we can make their environment sturdy, how we can make it secure, and also optimize for them. And then the last project that we did for that customer actually allowed us to do cost optimization. Once we had their environment squared away, we could actually understand where everything was, who was spending, and what was being spent on. And we were able to go into their environment and make changes to their compute, their storage, as well as their what's called RDS, or relational database.
So as technology brokers, very important question. How can we help optimize cloud usage and reduce costs at the same time?
So you're talking about possibly 3 different resources within AWS in order to do that. The first resource when it comes to optimizing costs is actually going to consist of 2. One is called the Cost Explorer, and what that does is give you visibility into your actual environment and shows you not only the resources that you're using, but also how much you're spending on those resources, and actually individualizes those down by workloads so that you can make changes if you would like to and see what those changes do to your environment. The second piece is called budgets. Budgets allows you to do alerts within AWS. If you have any specific resource that goes over a certain amount of usage and you set that standard to that specific resource, then you can actually get alerts anytime that you get to that budget. And that allows you to really be able to make changes, pivot, and talk to your team about how you can make that better now that you know you're nearing a very high amount of money as far as AWS is concerned.
That's great. How many people usually utilize that?
Good question. So I would say about 20% of people that I've spoken to in the AWS world actually utilize those, but those that do, they really have a ton of visibility into their environment. And I always encourage customers to start with that as a first step to cost optimization prior to us getting started with any additional projects in AWS.
Yeah, I actually noticed this is exactly what you were mentioning to some of our clients that we're working on together on AWS Optimization at Tech Lunch. So that totally makes sense. 20% is not enough. More people need to utilize these services with AWS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I totally agree. In addition to that, I remember you did ask a question around the cloud optimization. So with cloud optimization, there's actually a resource that AWS provides. It's called the Well-Architected Framework Review. And what that does, it aligns your environment to what are the standards and compliance regulations of AWS in order to keep your environment secure. This is really a great tool to utilize year over year because 9 times out of 10, a lot of customers' environments are changing throughout the year. So it's just as important to change with those environments to keep them secure.
Yeah, you need to always, modernize and keep up with whatever is released out there and whatever resources you have.
100%.
I think a very important question that quite some of my clients ask, what are the biggest mistakes that those clients make that lead to unnecessary AWS costs?
It's actually a great question. The first answer I would give you is going back to the tools that we discussed a moment ago with cost optimization. Just not having that visibility is a problem in itself because if you don't know where you are, it's very hard to tell where you need to go. So I would say having those Cost Explorer tools open as well as budgets activated within your AWS account so that you can not only see where you're spending, but you can also control where you're spending as well. The second way that customers really tend to make mistakes when it comes to their AWS costs is by over-provisioning and under-provisioning their workloads. Basically meaning, as far as their instances are concerned, it's very important that they right size. So over-provisioning basically means that the customers purchase more than they actually need to utilize ahead of time.
I see it all the time.
Yeah, which basically leads, of course, to overpayment. Now, the opposite of that, of course, is the under-provisioning. And what that'll lead to is stretched bandwidth and performance issues. So right sizing in a nutshell is definitely the right way to go so that you're not over-provisioning or under-provisioning your environment at all.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
The third mistake that a lot of customers make is not utilizing what are called reserved instances. So reserved instances are used for customers that are going to be utilizing what's called EC2 or compute in AWS. And in the case that a customer knows I'm going to need to use this resource continuously over time without any breaks, it allows them to actually purchase plans ahead of time that can be a 1 or 3 year plan. But the great thing about these plans, they usually save customers about 73% compared to regular EC2 on-demand EC2 spot instances. So it's really going to save a ton of money as long as that customer plans ahead as far as reserved instances are concerned.
I actually know exactly what you're talking about because we just helped our mutual client optimize their AWS environment exactly by what you were just talking about.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. As a next question, can you share where you significantly reduced AWS bill to one of your clients?
For sure. That question brings a specific customer to mind that came to us and they were looking to actually migrate some of their on-prem services to AWS, but they had an existing AWS account. But my suggestion was to them, before bringing kind of new furniture into the house, let's make sure that the furniture in the house is clean already. So what we did is we helped them to optimize their costs. They were currently spending about $80,000 a year.
I was like, it is zero.
The customer was spending about $80,000 a month in AWS. So what we did was to assist them is we brought in one of our cost optimization partners and we identified 30% in cost savings a month. And what that helped them with is to actually fund the migration project that they were looking to do. So 2 great things happened. They saved on the cost of what they were already spending in AWS, and then they also saved on cost in bringing a new environment into AWS. Exactly. So it was a double positive for the customer, and they're extremely happy with our services and still continuing to work with us.
Yeah, and actually I do think that I know who you're talking about, but NDA's in place, so we can't be sharing names.
No names.
Yeah, no names, but it's a great success story that we had. Absolutely amazing client, and they were happy, we were happy. The goals were reached, and honestly, there's so much more than we'll be able to work with them on and keep optimization going, pretty much make sure that their environment is actually set properly, and that's why we have you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One thing I'm finding is when you can save more, you can absolutely do more. So cost optimization is really starting the art of the possible because you're finding funding that you didn't even know you really had at the time.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can reinvest the money that you saved to something else and essentially grow your business. So obviously all of our clients really care about security and compliance. So how do you address that while optimizing their AWS?
Great question. I would say one way to optimize in security and compliance would be to ensure that, first of all, you are not neglecting any unused workloads. That can cause overutilization. It can cause increase in bill. I know we're talking about compliance right now, but it can also cause a lot of issues when you have unused instances that are still being spun up in your environment. So that actually leads me to another point when it comes to idle resources. And a way to really work around that is by using what's called auto scaling groups. And what that actually does is it saves you time in looking into your environment and seeing what's idle and turning it off and seeing what you need and turning it on. It actually does that for you. So you're actually able to go into your account and everything that's not being utilized will be spun down. Things that are needed will be spun up. And it basically automates that for you so that you're saving the time and you're keeping your environment compliant as well.
Okay, so all what you're saying right now is this is exactly how we can help here at Tech Lunch together to our clients.
Exactly. You can absolutely give suggestions around auto scaling groups where you can place them and where you might not be needing them based on, how much you're using the resources, how static they may be, and as well as any resources that might go idle.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you determine the right instance type and sizing for workloads?
For sure. So it's really going to be determined on how much you need to use those workloads. As I was saying earlier, the reserved instances are really going to be for those instances that you need for a longer period of time that you need to always be running. Those are the types that you want to make sure have a savings plan attached, and that's the reserved instance type. Then they have what's called on-demand EC2 instances. Those are the outskirts of the RI plans. Those are instances that you need to be running, but they're on demand, which basically means it might not be all the time, all year for 3 years or 2 years. It's more so an instance that you know that you need and it can never go down. The third type is what's called the spot instance. What the spot instance does is it's going to allow our customers to put instances in their environment for workloads that may not necessarily need to be continuous. Spot instance workloads are non-critical and flexible, which is really great for customers that have workloads that they don't need to be running all the time and that don't need to be up all the time. If they're okay with these workloads being able to go down, then these are the best type of instances for that type of customer.
So I know you mentioned a couple tools that our clients usually utilizing. So what are those emerging AWS tools and resources that are usually very relevant in terms of optimization?
For sure. I'll say that one tool that is really utilized by the majority of the resources that we bring into cost optimization conversations is AI, or artificial intelligence. And the way that's done is by not just going into the customer's environment and finding ways that they can save costs, but also saving them time by going into their environment, using that same AI to remediate those resolutions that have been suggested and taking that time away, giving that time back to the customer, so that they're not having to go hands the keyboard and pulling them away from their daily day-to-day.
Yeah.
So it's really going to save them in cost while also saving them in time at the same time. But AI is heavily being utilized for cost optimization in this.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, honestly, a lot of people are scared that AI is taking their jobs, but at the end of the day, someone needs to check what AI actually delivered or did, or make sure that it's actually good to proceed and kind of put a check mark next to it, if it makes sense.
Totally agree.
Yeah. And what about security while using AI for cost optimization?
So given that you're not having to put much time into the cost optimization piece, this is ample time to work on your security. And there's a couple of ways to do so. One is something I mentioned a moment ago, the well-architected framework review. But another way is there's actually security assessments that you can do on your environment to see how stable it is, because the well-architected framework review actually consists of numerous pillars. And security is one of the main pillars in that architecting review. So if you would like to just focus on that pillar, the security assessment is definitely a good focus for any customer that's looking to make sure that their environment is stable in a secure way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's very important. I think it's very important to manage the security cost optimization and the results that you're actually seeking. So have like that good balance there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
It's all about balance in life, right?
Have to be.
Yeah.
In AWS and outside of AWS.
Yeah, exactly. Even like work-life balance. It's all about what my LinkedIn is. So.
Exactly.
So what's one piece of advice you would give to companies who are looking to actually optimize their AWS environment?
Absolutely. One piece of advice that I would give to customers looking to optimize their AWS environment is, number one, if you know your environment's changing, you should also be changing with it. You should also be securing your environment. You should be looking at it for cost anomalies.
That was a correct response, but kind of wrong, because work with Tech Launch and we'll help you do that.
My bad. Another way is by making your environment very reliable. And you can do that in two ways. By making sure that you're focusing on your availability zones that your AWS environment has access to, as well as the regions that AWS provides to you to get to your customers, for you and your company to actually access AWS yourselves as an organization, and to do all of that with the least amount of latency possible. And the best way to do that is choosing regions that are close to where you are, where your company is, any satellites of your company, as well as any customers that you intend on interacting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. It can get expensive really quick.
Absolutely. Yeah, the farther you are, the more it'll cost.
Usually when we work with clients, let's say we start with AWS, but then usually we uncover so much more possibilities there for optimization, because as you said, it doesn't matter if we're talking about telecom or security or whatever it is, there's always some ways to optimize, and so many people don't know about that. Some really experienced IT leaders definitely worked with technology brokers before and familiar with how we can help, but some really need to get introduced to us.
Very much so.
So obviously we worked a lot on different AWS opportunities, had a lot of success, but for our audience, what are the major benefits?
So there's actually a few benefits. One is you're agnostic, basically meaning not only do you focus on AWS, but you can help your customers in Azure, you can help your customers in GCP. Another piece is you go beyond cloud. So basically, if there's telco needs, if there's energy needs, if there's any needs within, the technology piece of the company, that's where providers like yourself come in. I can assist with the AWS side, but I feel like you encompass all technology and your organization encompasses all technology. So that makes you very great to work with instead of having to find multiple providers for multiple different use cases.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, you're totally correct. We're vendor agnostic. So that's why we're always able to bring different options to the table and then see what our clients actually will like the most, what will fit them service-wise, support, price-wise. All of those options are very important. I usually refer to us as technology brokers as an extension to the team of our clients, just because we're able to help them, support them, but we also don't charge for services, which is definitely, who wouldn't like that? Free services and actually a useful optimization. So how do you usually explain that? Is it kind of the same way for you?
Absolutely. So I would say that when I'm talking to a customer, most of the time I'm introducing yourself as an extension of me, because like I said, I'm the AWS guy. I can do any and all things in AWS, but if a customer comes to me about telco, they're coming to me about energy, it's another language. So you speak that language. So that's exactly where you come in, to be an extension and make this relationship even stronger, and also make our customer rapport even stronger, because anything and everything that they need in technology, they can lean on one of us in some type of way.
Okay.
So in doing rebuild through Tech Launch, we can do quite a few things, and it makes our AWS customers even stronger. And our rebuild service is completely free. It is contractual month to month. And if at any time you decide that these services are no longer needed by your organization, you can leave at any time without any issues. But the greatest parts about rebuild is it allows you access to many resources that you might not be able to get on your own. For example, funding for any migrations or proof of concept projects that you would like to do in AWS. Another piece that we do is some of the assessments that I mentioned a moment ago, the well-architected framework review. We provide that for our customers. So that allows us to help them to be more compliant, to be more secure. Quite a few of the things that we actually talked about the majority of this conversation. Another piece is we do what's called enterprise discount program negotiation. So for customers that might be larger, that are looking to work with Amazon Web Services, we can actually assist them with ensuring that they're getting the best pricing possible for their commit contracts with AWS.
Yeah, that's our focus here. I also wanted to add that we just talked about how clients come to us for AWS, for telecom, security, whatever it might be, honestly to the point that some of them come to us for solar.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, all of the solutions that we help them with, we can actually put it under the same invoice, under the same bill, so they'll be able to see exactly what they have, when it expires, how many licenses they have, and it's so convenient because when you're a big business and you have so many different SaaS licenses, SaaS applications, it's just, you get lost.
Yeah.
So it's definitely really useful for us to be able to provide that to our clients. Once again, essentially being the extension of their team and helping them with all of that support and analytics and whatever they might need.
Absolutely. And who wants anything but a single pane glass invoice so they don't have to keep up with many different
exactly
forms of
and it's free
vendors. Yeah, completely. Can't beat it. Like I said, I'm only strong in AWS, but you all cover all technology, so that makes me even stronger being attached to you.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure working with you, and once again, so many good opportunities we're working on, so much more coming up, and very excited that we got to sit down here and talk with you and share your experience, your expertise, and yeah, I'm definitely leaning on you here.
Looking forward to working together, continuing to work together. Thanks for having me here at Tech Launch.
Of course. This is exactly what we do at Tech Launch. Feel free to reach out with your questions regarding cost optimization and we'll be able to help. Thank you for watching us. There's more videos coming out of these series. Please support, like, comment, and ask your questions. We'll be able to answer them. Work with Tech Launch. Yeah!